Denise Powell checked her watch as she walked through the busy airport terminal. It was 7:30 in the morning. Her flight to Chicago would board in 20 minutes. She adjusted her navy blue blazer and pulled her carry-on suitcase behind her. The wheels made a soft clicking sound on the shiny floor. Denise was the CEO of Horizon Technologies, a company that made security software for big businesses. Today was important. After months of talks, she was flying to Chicago to sign a $600 million deal with Apex Airlines. This contract would be the biggest in her company's history. At 42 years old, Denise had worked hard to get where she was. As one of the few black female CEOs in the tech world, she had faced many challenges. She had learned to stay calm when people doubted her, to speak with confidence in rooms where she was the only woman, and to dress in a way that made people take her seriously. The gate area was crowded with morning travelers. Some looked sleepy, holding large coffee cups. Others typed quickly on laptops, trying to finish work before boarding. Denise found an empty seat near the window and sat down. She opened her tablet to review the contract details one more time. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, her chief operating officer. Everything's set for the meeting. Jack Miller says he's looking forward to finalizing the deal. Denise smiled. Jack Miller was the CEO of Apex Airlines. He had seemed genuinely impressed with Horizon's security software during their demonstrations. The program would protect Apex's customer data, flight information, and internal communications from hackers. First-class passengers for Flight 347 to Chicago may now board, announced a voice over the speaker. Denise put away her tablet, gathered her things, and joined the short line of first-class passengers. She showed her boarding pass to the gate agent, who smiled and said, "Have a good flight, Miss Powell." The jet bridge was long and slightly curved. At the end of it, a flight attendant named Brenda stood at the airplane door, checking boarding passes. "Good morning," Brenda said to the man in front of Denise. "Right this way, sir. Seat 2C is on your right." When it was Denise's turn, Brenda's smile became stiff. She looked at Denise's boarding pass for several seconds longer than she had for other passengers. "You're in first class?" she asked, her voice louder than necessary. "Yes," Denise replied calmly. "Seat 3A. Brenda handed back the boarding pass with a slight frown. "To the left." Denise had experienced this kind of treatment before. The slight surprise when she mentioned she was a CEO. The extra questions when she checked into expensive hotels. The security guards who followed her in high-end stores. Small moments of doubt that added up over time. She found her window seat in the third row and placed her small suitcase in the overhead bin. The first-class cabin had wide, comfortable seats arranged in pairs. Soft music played through hidden speakers. Denise sat down, buckled her seatbelt, and took out her phone to send a quick email before takeoff. A white man in his 50s sat in the aisle seat next to her. He nodded politely before opening his newspaper. Across the aisle, two businessmen talked quietly about a golf tournament. Brenda and another flight attendant named Kevin began offering drinks to first-class passengers. Denise watched as they moved down the aisle, row by row. "Would you care for a pre-flight beverage?" Kevin asked the man next to Denise. "Coffee black," the man replied without looking up from his newspaper. When Kevin turned to Denise, his smile faltered. "And for you?" he asked, his tone notably less warm. "Orange juice, please," Denise said. Kevin returned quickly with the man's coffee, but seemed to forget Denise's juice. She didn't complain. She had learned to pick her battles. More passengers filed through the first-class cabin on their way to the economy section. A few glanced at Denise with slight surprise before continuing to their seats. One woman did a double-take so obvious that Denise almost laughed. Finally, Kevin returned with her orange juice, placing it on her tray without a word. Denise thanked him anyway. She checked her phone one last time before airplane mode. There was a new email from Susan, her chief financial officer, with the final numbers for the Apex deal. The contract would bring in $600 million over 5 years and create jobs for at least 50 new employees at Horizon. It was a game changer. The plane finished boarding, and the flight attendants prepared for departure. Denise sipped her juice and looked out the window at the ground crew loading luggage. In a few hours, she would be signing the biggest contract of her career. She allowed herself a moment of pride. The feeling didn't last long. "Excuse me." A deep voice interrupted her thoughts. Denise looked up to see a man in an airline security uniform standing in the aisle. His name tag read Greg Hoffman. His expression was serious, almost stern. "Yes?" Denise asked. "I need to speak with you," Greg said firmly. "Could you come with me, please?" Denise noticed several passengers looking in her direction. "Is something wrong?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "We've received a complaint," Greg said. "I need you to gather your belongings and come with me." The man with the newspaper glanced up, frowning slightly at the security officer. "What kind of complaint?" Denise asked. Her heart was beating faster now, but her face remained calm. Greg lowered his voice, but not enough to prevent others from hearing. "We've received information that someone is sitting in first class who doesn't belong here." Denise felt a familiar sinking feeling in her stomach. She had experienced this before, but never on a plane, never before such an important meeting. "I belong in this seat," she said clearly. "Here's my boarding pass." She held out the slip of paper. Greg barely glanced at it. "Ma'am, I need you to come with me now. We can discuss this off the aircraft." "This is my assigned seat," Denise repeated. "Seat 3A, first class." She pulled out her ID and held it next to the boarding pass. "Denise Powell, that's me." By now, the entire first-class cabin was watching. The conversations had stopped. Even the man with the newspaper had put it down to observe what was happening. "Ma'am," Greg said, his voice harder now. "I'm not going to ask again. Please gather your things and come with me." Denise felt heat rising in her face. She wanted to argue, to demand to know who had complained, to ask for the captain. But she also knew how these situations could escalate. A black person showing anger in public was often seen as threatening, dangerous. With as much dignity as she could gather, Denise put her phone in her pocket and unbuckled her seatbelt. "This is ridiculous," said the man with the newspaper, looking up at Greg. "She showed you her boarding pass. She's in the right seat." Greg ignored him. "Ma'am now," he said to Denise. As she stood, her phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it quickly. "Jack Miller just arrived at Apex headquarters. Looking forward to meeting you. Executive assistant." The irony was painful. The very airline kicking her off their plane was about to sign a massive deal with her company. Denise took her suitcase from the overhead bin and followed Greg down the aisle. She could feel every eye on her back. Some passengers looked confused, others uncomfortable. A few seemed to smirk. She kept her head high, her face a careful mask. As they reached the door of the plane, Brenda, the flight attendant, stood watching, her expression unreadable. "I'm the CEO of Horizon Technologies," Denise said quietly to her as she passed. "I'm flying to Chicago to sign a $600 million contract with your airline today." Brenda's eyes widened slightly, but she said nothing. Walking back through the jet bridge, Denise's mind was already racing ahead. This wasn't just an inconvenience or a personal insult. This was a business decision waiting to happen. By the time she reached the terminal, she knew exactly what she needed to do. Denise stood in the busy terminal, watching through the large windows as Flight 347 prepared for takeoff. Her flight, the one she should have been on. She took a deep breath and turned away from the window. "Ms. Powell, I am very sorry for the inconvenience," said Greg Hoffman, the security officer who had escorted her off the plane. His tone had changed now that they were in the terminal. It was softer, less demanding. "This isn't an inconvenience," Denise replied calmly. "This is discrimination. I want to speak with a manager." Greg shifted uncomfortably. "There's been a misunderstanding. We can get you on the next flight to Chicago in 2 hours." "That's not good enough," Denise said. "I had a confirmed seat on this flight. I was removed without cause. I want to speak with a manager now." A small group of passengers waiting at a nearby gate had begun to watch their conversation. Denise noticed a few people taking out their phones, possibly recording. "I'll see if the gate manager is available," Greg said. He walked over to the counter where an airline employee was helping another passenger. Denise took out her phone and called Marcus, her chief operating officer. "Marcus, we have a situation," she said when he answered. I've been removed from my flight. What? Why? Marcus asked, his voice concerned. Someone complained that I didn't belong in first class, Denise explained. The security officer made me leave the plane despite seeing my boarding pass and ID. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Marcus understood immediately. What had happened? As a black man in the corporate world, he had faced similar situations. What do you need from me? He asked. Call Jack Miller, Denise said. Tell him I've been delayed. Don't give details yet. Just say there's been a flight issue and I'm working to resolve it. Got it. Anything else? Yes. Schedule an emergency virtual meeting with the executive team for noon. And Marcus, I'm thinking about pulling out of the Apex deal. Marcus didn't sound surprised. I understand. I'll take care of everything. Let me know when you're on. Your way. Denise ended the call and saw Greg returning with a woman in an Apex Airlines uniform. Her name tag read, Linda Parsons, Operations Manager. Ms. Powell, I'm Linda Parsons, the woman said, extending her hand. I understand there's been an issue with your flight today. Denise shook her hand but didn't smile. Yes, I was removed from the plane without cause. Linda's expression was professional but concerned. Let's talk somewhere more private, she suggested, gesturing toward a small office behind the gate counter. Once inside the office, Linda closed the door and offered Denise a seat. Ms. Powell, I've reviewed what happened and I want to sincerely apologize for this situation. You're welcome to board the plane again. We'll hold departure for you. The plane is still here? Denise asked, surprised. Yes, there was a short delay due to, Linda paused, due to some paperwork issues. Denise suspected the paperwork issues might be related to her removal, but she didn't comment on it. Who made the complaint about me? She asked instead. Linda looked uncomfortable. I'm not at liberty to say, but I assure you, this isn't how we treat our passengers, especially our first-class customers. Especially your first-class customers? Denise repeated. So it would be acceptable to treat economy passengers this way? Linda flushed. No, that's not what I meant. We value all our passengers. Do you know who I am? Denise asked. I was just informed that you're the CEO of Horizon Technologies, Linda admitted. We deeply regret this misunderstanding. This wasn't a misunderstanding, Denise said firmly. This was profiling. I was removed from that plane because someone looked at me and decided I didn't fit their image of a first-class passenger. Linda didn't deny it. Ms. Powell, we take these matters very seriously. I promise there will be an investigation. In the meantime, we'd like to get you to Chicago as quickly as possible. Your original seat is still available. Denise considered her options. She could get back on the plane and continue to her meeting with Jack Miller. She could sign the $600 million contract as planned, or she could send a message that how Apex treated people mattered. I won't be getting back on that plane, she decided, and I need to make some calls before I decide about taking a later flight. Linda looked worried. We can offer you a seat on any flight today, all expenses covered. We can also provide compensation for your trouble. This isn't about compensation, Denise said. This is about dignity and respect. She stood up and walked out of the office. In the main terminal, she found a quiet corner near her gate and made another call. This time to Susan, her chief financial officer. Susan, I need you to run some numbers for me, she said when Susan answered. If we walk away from the Apex deal, what are our other options? Susan sounded surprised but quickly switched to business mode. We have interest from United Airways and Delta. Both were competitive with Apex, but their initial offers were about 10% lower. Could we get either of them to match Apex's offer? Possibly, Susan said thoughtfully. United seemed particularly eager. They might even go higher if they think they can steal the deal from Apex. Good. Reach out to both. Tell them we're reconsidering our options and would like updated proposals by the end of the week. May I ask what happened with Apex? Susan inquired. Denise explained the situation briefly. Susan listened without interrupting. I'm sorry that happened to you, she said when Denise finished. And from a business perspective, I support whatever decision you make. This isn't just about money. Thank you, Denise said. Now I need to call Jack Miller directly. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Emergency meeting set for noon. Jack Miller called asking if everything is okay. He heard about an incident on the flight. News traveled fast. Denise wondered who had told Jack about what happened. Perhaps Brenda or Kevin, the flight attendants. Or maybe Linda had called Apex headquarters after their meeting. Denise dialed Jack Miller's number. He answered on the second ring. Denise, I just heard there was some trouble with your flight. Are you okay? I'm fine, Jack, Denise replied. But we need to talk. Of course, when will you arrive in Chicago? We can push the meeting back if needed. I won't be coming to Chicago today, Denise said, and I'm reconsidering our partnership with Apex. There was a long pause on the other end. What happened? Jack finally asked, his voice serious. I was removed from the flight because someone complained that I didn't belong in first class, Denise explained. Despite showing my boarding pass and ID, I was escorted off the plane in front of everyone. That's unacceptable, Jack said. I'm so sorry, Denise. This doesn't reflect our company values at all. That's the problem, Jack. I think it does reflect your company values. Not the ones in your mission statement, but the real ones. The ones that allowed your security officer to remove a passenger based on her appearance. Let me fix this, Jack pleaded. We can implement new training programs. We can make this right. Maybe, Denise said. But the contract won't be signed today. I need to discuss this with my team. As she ended the call, Denise saw Linda Parsons approaching again, looking anxious. Ms. Powell, we've arranged a private lounge for you while you wait for your next flight. We've also upgraded your return ticket to first class. I haven't decided if I'm taking another Apex flight, Denise replied. Linda looked alarmed. Please, at least let us make you comfortable while you consider your options. The lounge has private meeting spaces where you can conduct your business calls. Denise nodded. She could use a quiet place for the upcoming executive meeting. As she followed Linda through the terminal, her phone began buzzing with notifications. Someone had posted a video of her being escorted off the plane. It was starting to circulate on social media. Flying while black was already trending. By the time Denise reached the lounge, the story was spreading. A black CEO removed from first class. A $600 million deal in jeopardy. Apex Airlines' reputation on the line. What had begun as a routine business trip had become something much bigger, and Denise knew that her next decision would send a powerful message, not just to Apex, but to every company that thought discrimination was an acceptable business practice. Denise sat in the private airport lounge, her laptop open in front of her. The room was quiet and comfortable, with soft leather chairs and large windows overlooking the runway. A staff member had brought her coffee and asked if she needed anything else. Denise had politely declined. On her screen, the faces of her executive team looked back at her from a video call. Marcus Bennett, her chief operating officer, sat in the main conference room at Horizon Technologies headquarters. Beside him was Susan Garcia, the chief financial officer. 4 other executives joined remotely from different locations. Everyone can see and hear me? Denise asked. They all nodded or said yes. Good. Thank you all for joining this emergency meeting, Denise began. As Marcus has explained, I was removed from my flight to Chicago this morning. The reason given was that someone complained I didn't belong in first class. Denise kept her voice steady as she told them exactly what had happened. She described how Greg Hoffman had escorted her off the plane despite seeing her boarding pass and ID. She explained her conversations with Linda Parsons and Jack Miller. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then Alan Winters, the chief marketing officer, spoke up. This is outrageous, he said, his face flushed with anger. We should go public with this immediately. I think the public is already finding out, Denise replied. There's a video circulating on social media, but that's not why I called this meeting. We need to decide what to do about the Apex contract. Marcus leaned forward. I've spoken with United Airways. They're very interested in working with us if the Apex deal falls through. They might even offer better terms. Delta has also expressed interest, Susan added. From a financial perspective, we have options. Denise nodded. The question is whether we should walk away from a $600 million deal because of how I was treated. It's not just about how you were treated, said Olivia Lee, the Chief Human Resources Officer. It's about Apex's values as a company. If they allow this kind of behavior, what does that say about them as a business partner? Denise looked at each of her team members on the screen. I want to hear from everyone. What do you think we should do? The discussion that followed was thoughtful and respectful. Some team members argued that Denise should accept Apex's apology and move forward with the deal. Others felt strongly that Horizon should walk away. Ryan Patel, the Chief Technology Officer, made a particularly compelling point. We've built our company on treating people with respect, he said. Our software protects people's privacy and security. If we partner with a company that doesn't share those values, what message does that send to our employees and customers? As they talked, Denise's phone buzzed with incoming calls and messages. Jack Miller had called 3 more times. Several journalists had somehow gotten her number and were requesting comments. The story was growing larger by the minute. Finally, after everyone had spoken, Denise made her decision. We're not signing the contract with Apex, she said firmly. Susan, reach out to United Airways and Delta. Tell them we're open to discussions. Marcus, work with our legal team to draft a statement explaining why we're pulling out of the Apex deal. What should the statement say? Marcus asked. Denise thought for a moment. It should be clear but professional. We're not trying to damage Apex's reputation. We're simply standing by our values. And what about Jack Miller? Susan asked. He's called me twice already. I'll speak with him, Denise said. This is a conversation that needs to happen CEO to CEO. As the meeting ended, Denise closed her laptop and stared out at the planes taking off and landing. What had begun as a routine business trip had turned into something much larger. Her decision would affect not just herself, but hundreds of employees at Horizon and potentially thousands at Apex. Her phone rang again. It was Jack Miller. This time she answered. Jack, she said simply. Denise, please reconsider, Jack said, his voice urgent. What happened was terrible, and the employees involved will face serious consequences. But don't let the actions of a few people destroy a partnership that could benefit both our companies. This isn't about a few bad employees, Jack, Denise replied calmly. This is about company culture. What happened today didn't occur in a vacuum. Give us a chance to fix this, Jack pleaded. We can implement new training programs, we can review all our policies, we can make this right. Maybe you can, Denise agreed. And I hope you do. But Horizon won't be signing the contract today, or this week. We're exploring other options. There was a long pause before Jack spoke again. Is this final? Yes, Denise said. I've discussed it with my team. We're united in this decision. After ending the call with Jack, Denise checked her social media accounts. The video of her being escorted off the plane had been viewed over 1 million times. Flying While Black was trending nationally. Thousands of people were sharing their own stories of discrimination while traveling. She scrolled through some of the comments. Many expressed outrage on her behalf. Others praised her for standing up to discrimination. A few criticized her, suggesting she was overreacting or playing the race card. Denise put down her phone and sighed. This wasn't how she had planned to spend her day. She had expected to be in Chicago by now, signing a historic deal for her company. Instead, she was sitting in an airport lounge at the center of a growing controversy. Linda Parsons knocked gently on the door of the private room before entering. Ms. Powell, is there anything else you need? She asked. Her smile seemed forced, her eyes nervous. No, thank you, Denise replied. But I would like to book a flight home now. Of course, we can get you on the next flight, first class, naturally. I think I'll fly with a different airline, Denise said. Linda's smile faltered. I understand. Again, I want to express how deeply sorry we are for what happened. After Linda left, Denise called her assistant, Kelly. Kelly, I need you to book me a flight home with United Airways, she said. And then I need you to set up meetings with United's and Delta's executive teams for tomorrow. Already working on it, Kelly replied efficiently. The United flight leaves in 2 hours. Also, there are several reporters asking for statements about what happened. CNN, MSNBC, and the New York Times have all reached out. Tell them I'll have a statement later today, Denise said. And Kelly, contact Ryan in the tech department. Ask him to look into Apex's history of customer complaints. I want to know if there's a pattern here. As Denise gathered her belongings to head to the United Airways terminal, her phone rang again. This time, it was Marcus. Denise, you should know that our decision is already having an impact, he said. Apex's stock has dropped 4% since the news broke, and United Airways just called me directly. They're offering to match Apex's terms plus an additional 5%. That was fast, Denise remarked. They see an opportunity, Marcus said. And they want to position themselves as the airline that treats all passengers with respect. Tell them we'll meet tomorrow, Denise replied. I want to see their diversity and inclusion policies before we make any decisions. As she ended the call, Denise noticed several people in the lounge glancing at her, then quickly looking away. She wondered if they recognized her from the video or if they had heard about what happened. It didn't matter. What mattered was that she had stood her ground. She had shown Apex Airlines and every company watching that discrimination had a cost. A $600 million cost. And as she walked through the terminal toward her new flight, Denise felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger at how she had been treated, pride in her decision, and hope that maybe, just maybe, her experience would help prevent someone else from going through the same thing. Denise woke up the next morning in her own bed, grateful to be home. Her flight with United Airways had been pleasant and uneventful. The flight attendants had been professional and courteous. No one had questioned whether she belonged in first class. She reached for her phone on the bedside table and was immediately overwhelmed by notifications. Hundreds of emails, thousands of social media mentions, dozens of missed calls. The story had exploded overnight. Denise scrolled through some of the headlines. Black CEO cancels $600 million deal after being removed from first class, Horizon. Technologies walks away from Apex Airlines contract over racial profiling. CEO Denise Powell takes stand against discrimination in business. One headline in particular caught her attention. Apex Airlines stock dropped 7% as discrimination scandal. Denise put down her phone and got ready for work. Today would be busy. She had meetings scheduled with executives from both United Airways and Delta. Her legal team needed to finalize the statement about the Apex situation, and she needed to address her own employees about what had happened. When Denise arrived at Horizon Technologies headquarters, the receptionist smiled warmly. "Good morning, Ms. Powell," she said. "Everyone's been talking about what happened. We're all proud of you for standing up to Apex." "Thank you, Rita," Denise replied with a smile. As she walked through the office to her suite, several employees stopped to express similar sentiments. Some offered words of support. Others simply nodded respectfully. Denise appreciated their solidarity, but she was eager to get to work. Marcus was waiting in her office when she arrived. "The statement is ready for your approval," he said, handing her a tablet. "And Jack Miller has called 4 times already this morning." Denise read through the statement carefully. It was exactly what she had asked for. Clear, professional, and focused on values rather than accusations. "This looks good," she said, handing the tablet back to Marcus. "Send it out." "What about Jack Miller?" Marcus asked. Denise sighed. "I'll call him after the United meeting." The meeting with United Airways was scheduled for 10 a.m. 4 executives from the airline arrived promptly, led by Patricia Williams, their CEO. Patricia was a tall, elegant woman in her early 60s with silver hair and a confident smile. "Denise, thank you for meeting with us," Patricia said as they shook hands. "I was deeply troubled to hear about your experience with Apex." "Thank you, Patricia," Denise replied. "But I'm here today to talk about United, not Apex." "Of course," Patricia agreed. "We've prepared a proposal that matches Apex's offer, with an additional 5% over the 5-year term. And we've brought our Chief Diversity Officer to discuss our company policies and training programs. The meeting was productive and positive. United's offer was strong, and their commitment to diversity and inclusion seemed genuine. Patricia shared specific examples of how United had worked to create a more inclusive environment for both employees and passengers. We're not perfect, Patricia admitted. We've had our own challenges, but we've learned from them, and we're committed to doing better every day. By the end of the meeting, Denise was impressed. She didn't commit to the deal yet. She still wanted to hear Delta's proposal, but she felt optimistic about the possibility of working with United. After the United team left, Denise finally returned Jack Miller's calls. He answered immediately. "Denise, thank you for calling back," Jack said, his voice tense. "Have you seen the news?" "Some of it," Denise replied. "Our stock has dropped 7%, Jack said. "Investors are worried about the scandal and the lost contract. We've had to issue a public statement promising a full investigation." "I saw your statement," Denise said. "It was a good first step." "We need more than a first step," Jack insisted. "We need to fix this. I'm calling to ask if you would consider being part of the solution." Denise was surprised. "What do you mean?" "We're creating a special task force to review our policies and training," Jack explained. "I'm asking if you would serve as an advisor. Your perspective would be invaluable." Denise didn't respond immediately. The request was unexpected. "This isn't about the contract," Jack added quickly. "I understand that ship has sailed. This is about helping us become better." "I'll think about it," Denise promised. "But right now I have another meeting to prepare for." After ending the call with Jack, Denise met with her executive team to discuss the United proposal and prepare for the upcoming meeting with Delta. The team was enthusiastic about United's offer, particularly the increased financial terms and their diversity initiatives. "Their track record isn't perfect," Olivia from HR pointed out, "but they've made real improvements in the past few years." "Delta's meeting is at 2 p.m., Susan reminded everyone. "We should wait to hear their proposal before making any decisions." As the meeting ended, Kelly, Denise's assistant, entered with an urgent message. "Greg Hoffman and the flight attendant involved in your incident have been placed on administrative leave," Kelly reported. "It's all over the news, and Linda Parsons, the operations manager, has requested a personal meeting with you." Denise raised an eyebrow. "Did she say why?" "Just that she wants to apologize in person and discuss how Apex can do better," Kelly replied. "Tell her I'll consider it next week," Denise said. "Right now we have more important matters to focus on." The meeting with Delta went well, but their offer wasn't as strong as United's. Their financial terms matched Apex's original proposal, without the additional 5% that United had offered. Their diversity policies were solid but not exceptional. By the end of the day, Denise had made her decision. She called Patricia Williams directly. "Patricia, I'm pleased to tell you that Horizon Technologies is ready to move forward with United Airways," she said. "Your proposal makes sense for us, both financially and in terms of company values." "That's wonderful news, Denise," Patricia replied warmly. "I'm looking forward to a long and productive partnership." As Denise prepared to leave the office, she received a surprising email. It was from an employee at Apex Airlines, someone she had never met. The subject line read, "Thank you for taking a stand." The email was brief but powerful. The employee explained that they had experienced and witnessed discrimination at Apex for years, but management had always dismissed their concerns. Now, with the lost contract and the media attention, things were finally changing. The employee thanked Denise for being the catalyst for that change. Denise forwarded the email to Marcus with a note. "This is why our decision matters." On her way home, Denise received a call from a major business magazine. They wanted to interview her for their cover story, "The Cost of Discrimination: How One CEO's Stand Changed an Industry." Denise agreed to the interview. She knew that her experience could help other companies understand that discrimination wasn't just morally wrong, it was bad for business. As she drove home, Denise thought about how quickly everything had changed. 24 hours ago, she had been sitting in an airport lounge, uncertain about her next steps. Now, her decision had sparked a national conversation about race, respect, and corporate responsibility. The next morning's headlines would tell a new story. Horizon Technologies signed $750 million deal with United Airways. Apex Airlines announces comprehensive diversity training program. How one CEO's stand against discrimination changed two companies forever. What had begun as a humiliating experience had become a powerful moment of change. And Denise Powell, the CEO who had been escorted off a plane for not belonging in first class, had shown the business world exactly where she belonged, at the forefront of a movement for respect and equality in corporate America. 6 months had passed since that fateful day when Denise Powell was escorted off an Apex Airlines flight. So much had changed in that time, both for Denise personally and for the business world more broadly. On this bright morning, Denise stood, on a stage in New York City, facing an audience of over 500 business leaders. She had been invited to give the keynote speech at the National Business Ethics Conference. The topic: Values-Based Leadership in the Modern Era. "Good morning," Denise began, her voice calm and confident. 6 months ago, I was removed from a first-class seat on an airplane because someone decided I didn't look like I belonged there. Today, I'm here to talk about how that moment changed not just my company, but an entire industry. The audience listened intently as Denise shared her story. She spoke without anger or bitterness, focusing instead on the business lessons learned and the positive changes that had followed. When I canceled that $600 million contract with Apex Airlines, many people called it a brave decision, she said. But it wasn't about bravery, it was about alignment. At Horizon Technologies, we believe that how you treat people matters. We couldn't partner with a company that didn't share that value. Denise went on to explain how the incident had forced many companies to examine their own practices. Airlines had implemented new training programs. Customer service departments had revised their complaint procedures. Executives had started paying more attention to diversity and inclusion initiatives. The most powerful tool in business isn't technology or capital, Denise told the audience. It's integrity. When your actions align with your stated values, you build trust. And trust is the foundation of every successful business relationship. After her speech, Denise was approached by dozens of executives wanting to discuss her experience and learn from it. Many shared their own stories of difficult ethical decisions they had faced in their careers. Later that day, Denise met with Patricia Williams, the CEO of United Airways, for lunch. Their partnership had flourished over the past 6 months. The $750 million contract was proceeding smoothly, and both companies were benefiting from the collaboration. "Your speech was excellent," Patricia said as they settled at their table. "I've already received texts from 3 different board members who were in the audience." "Thank you," Denise replied. "It's still strange to be known for this incident rather than for our technology." Patricia smiled. "That's changing. Did you see the article in Tech Monthly? They called Horizon's new security platform revolutionary. Your company's reputation for innovation is growing just as fast as your reputation for ethical leadership." Their conversation was interrupted by a familiar face approaching their table. It was Jack Miller, the CEO of Apex Airlines. "Denise, Patricia," he greeted them, looking slightly uncomfortable. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," Denise said, gesturing to an empty chair. "Would you like to join us?" Jack hesitated, then sat down. "I wanted to thank you for your speech today. It was fair. You could have been much harder on Apex than you were. That wouldn't have served any purpose," Denise replied. "I'm more interested in progress than punishment." Jack nodded. "We've made a lot of changes since what happened. Greg Hoffman was terminated after our investigation found a pattern of similar incidents. We've completely revamped our training programs, and our new Chief Diversity Officer has implemented a comprehensive review of all our policies and procedures. I've heard good things about your new initiatives," Patricia said, her tone professional, but not particularly warm. "It's been a difficult road," Jack admitted. Our stock still hasn't fully recovered, but we're a better company now than we were 6 months ago. He turned to Denise. And I wanted you to know that we're implementing all of the recommendations from your advisory report. Your insights were invaluable. After the incident, Denise had eventually agreed to serve as an advisor to Apex's task force on diversity and inclusion. She had spent 3 days at their headquarters interviewing employees, reviewing policies, and developing recommendations for improvement. I'm glad to hear that, Denise said sincerely. Change isn't easy, but it's necessary. After Jack left, Patricia raised an eyebrow. That was generous of you. Many people in your position would have refused to help them at all. Denise shrugged. Holding a grudge wouldn't help anyone. If my experience can lead to real change at Apex, then something good has come from it. When Denise returned to Horizon, Technology's headquarters that evening, she found her executive team waiting with exciting news. Their new security platform had just been selected for a major government contract worth over $300 million. This has nothing to do with the Apex incident, Marcus told her proudly. They chose us because our technology is the best in the market. Period. Denise smiled. This was what she had always wanted, for Horizon to be recognized for its innovation and excellence, not just for her stand against discrimination. The following week, Denise received an unexpected letter. It was from Brenda, the flight attendant who had questioned her first-class ticket on that Apex flight 6 months ago. I want to apologize for my role in what happened to you, Brenda wrote. After that day, I examined my own biases and realized how much damage they could cause. I've since completed additional training and have worked to become a better person. Thank you for turning a negative experience into a catalyst for positive change. Denise was touched by the letter. It was a reminder that change happened one person at a time, one decision at a time. That weekend, Denise flew to Chicago for a technology conference. This time she flew United Airways. As she settled into her first-class seat, the flight attendant smiled warmly. Good morning, Ms. Powell, he said. It's an honor to have you on board with us today. Denise smiled back. Thank you. As the plane took off, Denise gazed out the window at the city below. She thought about how far she had come, from a young girl with big dreams to the CEO of a major technology company. She thought about the challenges she had faced and the obstacles she had overcome. The incident with Apex had been just one of many moments when she had been judged by the color of her skin, rather than the content of her character. But it had been a turning point, not just for her, but for many others. 1 month after the incident, Denise had established the Powell Foundation for Equal Opportunity. The foundation provided scholarships for minority students studying technology and business. It also offered mentorship programs and internships at Horizon Technologies and other partner companies. We're not just changing policies, Denise had explained when announcing the foundation. We're changing the future by investing in the next generation of leaders. Now, as her plane cruised at 30,000 feet, Denise opened her laptop to review the latest applications for the scholarship program. There were hundreds of them. Bright, ambitious young people with dreams as big as hers had been. She thought about how her decision 6 months ago had affected so many lives. The employees at Horizon who had seen their CEO stand up for what was right. The executives at Apex who had been forced to confront the biases in their company culture. The business leaders who had re-examined their own policies after watching what happened. Most importantly, she thought about all the people who would never know her name but who might face a little less discrimination because of the changes her stand had inspired. It hadn't been an easy path. There had been criticism and backlash. Some had accused her of overreacting or of using the incident for publicity, but Denise had stayed true to her values, and in doing so, she had made a difference. As the plane began its descent into Chicago, Denise closed her laptop and smiled. The journey wasn't over. There was still much work to be done. But today, in this moment, she felt proud of how far they had come.